I'm resting 'cause it's a blessing, not a lesson. I think a lot of people are learning how to slow down, ironically, as we're about to pick up speed with the Fire Horse. I just saw the Knight of Wands in my mind's eye in the tarot, the card. I just started channeling those lyrics. Alright, we have a lot of cards here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The Storm and the Threshold. Some of you are about to cross the threshold of something that has been very difficult for you. I'm going to stick those up top. Also, solutions are here. The fault line. I'm not going to take that. And the shadow. Some of you have faced great challenges with the darker aspects of yourself, the hidden, the unseen. Again, we're going into the unconscious, the subconscious. Some of you could be doing astral travel. You could be doing dream work. You could be in a spiritual initiation. You could be learning about shamanism, the middle, upper, and lower worlds, which again, astral travel. Some of you are working with animals and tapping into connecting with different life force energies, I'm hearing. Oh, interesting. Some of you are tapping into ley lines. That's not for everyone. I feel like some of you might be interested in the paranormal and an axis of power. Look into that if you don't know what that is. I'm just channeling here. Yeah, the empty room. Another message, we talked about the empty room and how it reminds me of a mirror box, which is a safety technique for empaths when you're learning how to stabilize, and I'm getting chills on the lower half of my body as I say this. You are, that's confirmation, you are learning to stabilize different energies and learning how to take breaks from intense energy. And one way you can do that with the mirror box is you go into a meditation, you make sure you set your protections and that nothing can portal in or out of your reality except yourself, of course, and any trusted guides. And it's one of your safe places where you know that only your emotions can be around you. You can do this anytime, anywhere. There are easier ways you can do this by protecting yourself with white light and all that, but if you really need to step away from a lot of energy, this is a great practice. Look into it more. I also offer spiritual guidance for clients. The Eternal Child, and then the fault line again. Okay, let's see. Some of these cards I might look up. I've intentionally not studied this deck except for some of the cards in brief because I like to channel into the energies. If I feel called, I will pull, I'll open the book. Alright. I also have here the Medicine Heart Oracle. So we got 10 cards total, which how perfect. This is a year 10, which a lot of people are saying it's a year 1, but I know people are really quick to just jump ahead, and with the Fire Horse energy, I can see that. Strong emphasis on Jupiter and Sagittarius. Okay. Also, if you have any Pisces placements, speaking of Pisces, Jupiter is the original ruler of Pisces, and it's the planet of expansion. Good or bad or neutral, whatever it is we're giving energy to. You might want to look at your Jupiter placements in your chart to see how you are expanding. But what I was saying about Pisces is perhaps I'm picking up anybody who might have Mars in Pisces. That might be, this might be specific to a few of you. It says a collective message, take which resonates and leave the rest behind, okay? So when we are going fast, the way we don't burn ourselves out is by knowing how to ground, how to be in the present moment. It's like when you're on a train, right? It's going chugga 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 chugga. It's going, it's going, it's going, it's going. Everything is passing you by, but you're not worried about what just passed through the window. You're not worried about, oh, I just missed that perfect scenery because I was looking at this thing or that thing. You don't feel like you're missing out. You're a part of the movement, but you're still within yourself. You're typically sitting, you're having a mindful moment or a conversation. You're a part of something while everything is speeding forward. Some of you are gaining great momentum here, hence the storm and the threshold. That I could also have the double meaning of you are about to blast through a storm for some of you, and others of you are the storm, and you're showing people how to overcome intensity or utilize it as power to cross thresholds, to jump timelines, to shift. Yeah, and the shapeshifter coming out again, but it was in reverse, though these cards I don't typically read in reverse. They're round oracle cards. But that does say something to me. The energy has transformed. If you enjoyed that message or it calls to you, do check it out. And by all means, I don't really care about likes, but the algorithm does. So if you want our community to grow, you want the messages to get out to more people in the community, or you just want me to keep creating, your support by doing that simple action does make my content more relevant in the algorithm. So thank you. Thank you if you've been a supportive contributor. I just split the deck on 35, light rising in the east. We'll get back to the shapeshifter. Hang with me, I am channeling here. I'm a psychic medium empath, by the way. And number 19, Lou. That is from the Medicine Heart Oracle Pocket Edition. Now, I'm going to actually set those aside, and we'll look at those later. I feel like they're going to be relevant. Put those there. If you like to see all the images of the cards, I always make an accompanying blog for every video. I also do singing videos if you want to entertain yourself, transmute with me. I'm also an emotional alchemist, so I use music and creativity to transmute. I know something about the dark night of the soul, spiritual awakenings, all that. And I am on the other side of it. 3 of them, actually. 3 and a few ascensions over the last year. So if you're looking to grow, expand, and really learn how to stabilize and anchor into that chaos so you don't lose yourself, or so you find yourself, definitely consider subscribing. Thank you so much. All right. Yeah, so with the train, we were talking about, like, ooh, got chills. Somebody's resonating. That's cool. For those of you that work with energy, if you haven't learned that you have to ground your energy consistently in order to anchor in and hold the energy you are channeling or working with or reading, definitely start doing that. I suggest once a day or twice a day. There's multiple ways you can ground. So to each their own. If you'd like to share in the comments how you ground, how you find your anchoring in, please do. You know, share amongst yourselves. Get some dialogue going, okay? The Temple, Aletheia, Thanatos, the Shapeshifter, the Castle, the Mentor, the River, the Healer, and then the bonus cards, the Threshold and the Storm. Okay. The Temple, to me, obviously, is about sacred space. And this Aletheia, again, I don't know the significance of this yet because I haven't looked it up in the book, nor Thanatos. However, they both have very Greek energy to me. Some of you may have Greek ancestry or Greek deities. I am a non-denominational channel, so all faiths and beliefs are welcome here. Shapeshifter, some of you know how to move around in different energies, circulate, look at different beliefs, study different ways of finding the sacred. By the way, grounding in nature is a great way to do that. The key is the side channel or personal experience. For me, the key is to find that sacred space within yourself. And this is not an easy task. This is something that requires bravery, it requires courage, it requires consistency. And your consistency may not be somebody else's consistency. Let me tell you, in a culture or cultures, different societies in our world, hypermasculinity is very normalized, especially those that have very capitalistic societies. I'm not hating on capitalism, I'm just making an observation, okay? I am somebody who used to bust my butt and work and work and work, and I came from a middle class, lower middle class family where that is what my parents did. They worked and worked and worked and worked. And I won't get into too much more personal details, but I'll say I had to learn from burnout, and I had to break certain karmic family cycles in order to allow myself to have rest. It's like that little jingle I was singing. I'm a resting 'cause it's a blessing, not a lesson. For some of you, it is a lesson. And I learned that lesson. I used to, especially if you come from an upbringing, however you want to look at that, or culture, or different living situations, different social groups, that make you feel guilty for self-care, that make you feel like you can't calm down, you can't stop. And this typically comes from having authority figures in your life that either lived by that example of victimizing themselves by never resting and then blaming others for their hyper independence, which actually was obstructed codependence on the necessity of them. There was a point in my life where I was very much in my toxic masculine, and I had to learn eventually over time that it's okay to ask for help. And if your community and those around you make you feel bad for asking for equal give and take for even the smallest contribution, they're not your community. If they don't want to change and they expect you to continue to burn yourself out and you allow it, that's a toxic paradigm. You don't have to keep doing that if you're not happy. You can find a way. This is coming from somebody who, without going into too much of my personal history, I spent over a handful of years chronically ill. And coming from being somebody who worked really, really hard all the time, and sometimes 2, sometimes 3 jobs, it wasn't until I got sick and started having other health issues that I had to break my own pride. I had to ask for help. And again, when you're in an environment where people expect you to continue doing almost everything, and then they resent you for asking for the simplest things, you realize you're not being taken care of. And if you're brave enough, you go into the shadow and you realize, okay, I teach people how to treat me, so I know that these people met me when I thought it was okay to disrespect myself in this way and not be balanced and not be taken care of. And it probably started with my authority figures, with my family of origin. And it came from a trauma response. It came from a nervous system that never rests. And then that became guilt. And you repeat these cycles in your life where you just do. And then there's the precious, interesting, precious, my precious. There is this pressure to have the precious, the material, right? Well, let me ask you something. What is more valuable to you? That new, for example, phone every year, or 15 minutes a day, every single day for a year of pure peace and self-love? Ask yourself that. You got the temple here over the castle, the sacred space, your home within yourself. The mentor and the river and the healer. Hidden wisdom is flowing to you. The healer. Is your wisdom poison or is it medicine? You're speaking of ancestral lineage and karmic cycles and what was expected of you. Look at your relationships. How have you ended up dating the same kind of people or having the same kind of friends? No matter where you go, no matter where you live, where is it a mirror reflection of the pieces of you that don't feel like home, don't feel like a safe space? What are the red flags behind that? Can you recognize that? Do you know what a mindfulness practice is? Do you know how to just be? Sometimes nothingness is the key. There's a lot of shame in our society for rest. There's a lot of misconceptions that somebody who takes time to themselves or slows down or is grounded and stable yet unique and does things their own way, that they're privileged in some way, that they're lazy, that they're not interested or ambitious. If you're doing nothing to escape from reality, then perhaps some of that could be true. I feel like some of you just got triggered. Take a deep breath. I'm an advocate and a spiritual guide. You're welcome to click off whenever you want, but if you feel like you want to stick around, please do. How do you lead by example through your own actions, by your own flow? Why are you making your healing somebody else's responsibility? Why are you letting your precious energy be drained to things that claim to fix you when really the cure is within you. How are you doing that? So yeah, inside you can be the temple or you can be the storm. Again, the lesson of as above, so below, as within, so without. You know, there's a lot of people out there who don't believe in manifestation. They don't believe in the laws of the universe, and that's okay. You know what? A lot of those people are not awake, and there's no shame on them. But to say that those things don't exist is, well, it's ignorant. And, you know, ignorance isn't necessarily a slander, okay? It just means that we don't know what we don't know until we know it, right? And there's, of course, the saying, ignorance is bliss. And people use that as an excuse of, oh, I don't want to know. You know, they think, oh, not knowing is better for me. That's also how you give up your mental liberty, your spiritual authority, your personal responsibility. You don't have to know everything. And in this world, there's a lot of fake everything out there. The shapeshifter. Taking off the mask. Some people have one mask they wear around everyone else, and when they come home, that mask comes off. Other people live through the mask, and then others have different masks for different social groups and different situations. And then there's those of us who don't wear masks. Sometimes we paint our face pretty, but it's our face. I want to read Thanatos from the book. I'm feeling called. One sec. Flip it to the shaman. Shaman? I never say shaman. Who says shaman? I always say shaman. For those of you that don't know what a shaman is, it is somebody who works with the soul, who heals the soul. I personally am actually on a shamanic journey. I have been slowly working on that journey, and I'm not going to discuss it at this time. It is an ongoing sacred process. And it comes from many different places in the world. It's not only an indigenous practice. In case, again, we were speaking on ignorance, you know, educate yourself. The particular shamanism that I am studying is Celtic shamanism, because that is part of my ancestry. Okay, so some of you perhaps look into the ancient practices of the healing arts of whatever part of your ancestry that you reverberate with the most. And some of you do not have the privilege of knowing your ancestry, whether you were adopted or you come from a culture where those records were not kept. I have the privilege of being able to trace one side of my family back to ancient Scottish times, to the Pict people, right? P-I-C-T. The blue people, the ancient Celtic people. However, even that culture, before the 1000s, there wasn't written documentation. You see that a lot with Germanic cultures and with people of color, where their cultures were desecrated and they lost touch with their ancestry due to enslavement, due to sacrifice, due to separation and lack of access to that culture. That there are some that are deeply woven into their ancestry. They are fortunate even coming from those backgrounds. I see this a lot with Latin cultures. where the community continues the legacy of the sacredness of the practice. Okay. So if you feel like going on a journey and you don't really know where to start, and you have an interest in spirituality, you have an interest in discovering your roots because you want to, say, get into ancestral veneration, you want to pay tribute to those that came before you. And you know, there's another thing that not everyone talks about, but if you are adopted and you have been accepted, and I'm getting heavy chills as I'm saying this, so this is resonating with some. If you come from a family where you have been loved and you've been integrated into their culture, and perhaps you, I'm feeling a grandma for some of you, were very close to them, and there was no separation between bloodlines. Because, I mean, if you think about soul family is not typically blood. It can be sometimes. We can have family that is soulmates. But some of us don't have connections with our blood family for one reason or another. Now, that's a privilege if you do. It's a privilege if you have this information. Some of you are very uncomfortable about this topic. My throat chakra keeps trying to shut down the way we speak. Yeah, I just flipped to the venom. Yeah, some of you think this is poison, and I don't understand why you're still here if you feel that way, but, you know, perhaps there's something you can learn. So if you're interested in learning more, you can, even if you are adopted, I feel like you can also still be a part of that ancestral lineage, even if it's not in your blood. I'm somebody who believes that we reincarnate into different families for a reason, for some kind of soul contract, some kind of purpose, right? And not all of us have some huge purpose in our family, but some of us do. And sometimes you are the odd one out, and that can mean that you're the generational chain breaker, you're the healer, you're the odd one, you could also be the family legacy, you could be the super talented one that elevates your family to a new level, or like I said, you could be the adopted one who happens to be accepted wholly. And you know, there's some people who adopt children who just so much wanted to have the privilege of a child, and they treat their children better than some people who are blood. So if you have a connection to the heritage of your adopted family, and I feel like I'm speaking to someone specifically here, or a few specific souls, and you have access to that information, dive into it, because I'm willing to bet that it is possible that you have past life ties as a blood family member to that family. And if you don't, and you can figure these things out by journeying, you can find these things out by working with a shaman, you can find these things out by doing your own vision quests. You can if you feel a connection to the culture, you can learn so much more. I encourage you to open your mind and consider the possibilities. Okay. Now we were going to look at Thanatos. I hope that helped whoever was meant for. LXX